Well, hello campers. Welcome to the last demo of summer camp. I've decided to do a demo using what we call the recipe templates. Creative Memories has quite a few out these days, and the newest one was this one here called Slices of Life. A number of you ordered them over the last couple of months, and I just thought it might be helpful to go over some tips that I've learned and sort of show you how versatile these can be. The first time you purchase a template, no matter what kind it is, you want to get the bundle. And the bundle is going to give you a photo pencil. It's also going to give you a set of these clips that are very handy, and these clips actually work much better than clips that we've had in previous templates. I think back in the old CM we actually released one, and they sort of have a hinge on them. These are nice because they're actually designed specifically to use with the template and a background sheet. So they really hold everything together very nicely when you're setting everything down. And they're the exact size of the border of the template. So they really work nicely. And unfortunately, they don't come in this cute little tin. This is something I've had for years. And I said, oh, that'll hopefully keep all my clips together in the right place. So anyway, so when you get the bundle, you get the 4 clips, you get a photo pencil, and you get the template, the plastic template, and I believe they're $18.50. And once you've bought that set, then you can just purchase the plastic templates by themselves, and they're $13.50 each. So we're just going to focus on this particular one today. I thought it was really a neat template because of its versatility. If you take a look at it, you can see that we can use it and really look sort of at rectangles and triangles, actually squares, and get one look, and then you can turn it and you can trace different parts of the template and you can get a totally different look, a whole circular kind of motif. So depending on what parts of the template you choose to use with your papers and your photos, you can really get a variety of different effects for your layouts. So I have to thank my upline Nicole So, who did a wonderful video a while back. You can check out her YouTube videos. Her last name is spelled S-O-H. And so I am taking some tips that she shared in that video today. And one of the first things she says is when you open up your template, what you want to do is you want to create a guide, sort of like a cheat guide, which is going to allow you, as you're cutting your pieces, to keep them all in order, because depending on how many pieces you choose to cut on any given template, if you're just sort of throwing them on your desktop, when you go to lay them down, you could have a little bit of difficulty trying to put them in the right spot. So her tip was to take this is your plastic template, put it on the back of the packaging sheet, and then just use a pencil and draw it through. I would use a pencil, don't use a marker. This is kind of shiny, treated paper that, it just might not work really well with a marker. I think it would probably smear. The other really neat tip that she shared is to mark the front of your template, and then you can mark the back or just know that the blank side is the back side. And in this particular template, you don't really need to do the top versus the bottom, because this is totally symmetrical. No matter which way you actually use this template, it's basically the same. Nothing's going to change. But some of the other ones that we have, depending on how you orient the template or whether you use the back to front, you're going to get a different look, which actually is great because, again, you're getting a lot of versatility with your templates. This particular template, the versatility is in the way it's put together, so that you have these squares that you can use, these triangles you can use, and also the whole circular motif. And interestingly enough, this larger circle is actually the same size as our new jumbo circle cutter. So you could very easily cut a whole background circle using the jumbo cutter to make things easier, and then continue to cut some of the smaller shapes using the template. So that's another kind of fun tip. All right, so to make things go along a little more quickly today, I know everybody's probably tired since this is the evening part of our 12-hour session today. What I did was I did some pre-cutting, and so I'm going to put the template aside for a moment, and I'm going to show you how great it is to use this guide once you've produced it by tracing your template, how you can use it to sort of keep everything in order. And for this particular layout, I actually dug out some of the deep blue sea papers. They were the beach papers from last summer. Actually, this is going to go down here. So I really liked the way the colors on these papers fit the beach pictures that I chose to use for this layout. So I'm just going to show you how nice it is to have this guide, because when we go to lay this down on our background sheet, we'll be good to go. All right, so I've left a couple to cut for you to actually see how this is done. So we're going to put this aside carefully for a moment, and we're going to take the template again, and I'm going to cut the last photo. Now, you're going to want to use your photo pencil, like I said, that comes with the bundle, and make sure even though this doesn't really make a difference with this particular template, we want to keep everything kosher. And we're going to cut out a shape that's going to mimic the other shapes that I cut out using photos. And what you want to do is you want to orient your photo so that you get the best the best visual for the shape that you're going to be cutting. I'm going to be cutting along here, so I can see my daughter and her friend, and I can see the bird, and I think that's going to work out really, really nicely. If you can line up any straight edges with the straight edges of the shapes that you're going to be cutting, that's an awesome thing if you can do that, but you don't have to feel like you have to do that. It just can make it easier because you have one less cut to make. And then what you're going to do is you're going to trace. Using your photo pencil, you're going to trace along the edges, just taking your time. And the reason why you're going to use a photo pencil, why it's important, is because this is not going to damage or press down hard on your photo, and you're going to be able to wipe away the residual marks that might be left on your photo. So now, if I can find my scissors, I'm going to cut this shape out. Another tip that you might find helpful is that once you choose the way you're going to cut, whether you're going to cut along the line, slightly inside the line, or slightly outside the line, you want to keep that going through all the cuts that you make for all the shapes in your template, because that's going to be your sort of your standard. So I was actually cutting all of these slightly on the inside to try to eliminate as much of the photo pencil mark that I can avoid. Photo pencils are really not great to use for paper because they don't erase on the paper. You can wipe them off of your photo, but you really can't erase them from your photo either. But it does make it a little bit easier and smoother to use your photo pencil on the photos. That's why they're photo pencils. So we're gonna cut this circular shape, and there we have our photo. And if any of you have an old polishing cloth, you just go along the edges and remove any little blackness that you can see. And there you have it, so that I can take my, I guess we should call this a guide, and we can place that right there. That's the way it's going to go. All right, then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our paper. And here's the remaining piece of the deep blue sea paper that I chose to use. Now, something you should think about, one of the best uses for templates is to use up scraps of paper. This is where you can go into your stash of scraps and you can really piece things together. You know, depending on the size of the shape you choose to cut, you can really play around with that and utilize your scraps really well. The exception to that rule would be what I'm doing with this particular layout is that I really like this paper and I liked the way the pattern flowed throughout the whole 12 by 12 sheet. And so I'm trying to keep actually fairly true to where the placement of the paper is in terms of the shapes that I'm trying to cut. So I did that. I basically am using the entire sheet. I'm not trying to save paper here. And this would also, you know, you would want to do this, you'd want to think about this if you have a paper that has a real strong horizontal pattern or vertical, whatever. You need to think a little bit about what the pattern is and how that's going to look on the shape and on the layout as you cut it. So be mindful of that. If you're using solids, you don't even have to worry about it. So I am going to cut this shape. So I'm using a pencil now. A pencil I'm going to be able to erase. Make sure I did that okay. And then, again, because this is very symmetrical, I can just flip this over. Oh, actually, I don't even have to do that. I can just cut it out. Cut this particular shape out because I can flip it over. This doesn't always work. You have to think about that a little bit. And I'm going to trace this. And because I want to cut this out as one shape, I'm not gonna draw anything along those edges. So I think I just have to do that, right? And I'm good to go. So again, I'm going to cut on the inside of the lines that I drew, slightly on the inside. So that's my corner. And then I'm going to cut my last shape here, last paper shape. We're almost there. Okay. Cut that a little bit more smoothly. There we go. All right. So we're going to put that aside. We're going to take our guide and we're going to, actually, before I even put it down, I'm going to take you can use any kind of an eraser to get rid of any of the pencil marks. I just noticed I didn't really cut that very well. Oh, that's, I'm erasing from the scrap paper. There you go. Okay, so actually that's fine and that's fine. So we're gonna place it like so, and that's basically what our layout's gonna look like, okay? All right, so the next and the last part is we're gonna tape all these down on our piece of background paper, and I actually forgot to pull a piece of background paper out, so I'm going to do that right now. And I think the background is basically going to be where the border is and any of the white spaces in between. So I'd like it to have some contrast with what I've chosen. I don't think I want it to have, that actually might be good. I'm going to use this as my contrast, and I think I'm going to have it starting lighter on the top and going down to darker on the bottom. So the first thing you're going to do to start your process of taping everything down is you are going to use your clips and adhere the template to your background sheet. And you can see they fit just really nicely on here. And the last one. I don't know if you can see that. I'm not always aware of exactly what you're seeing. And I think that this is something that the repositional tape runner was definitely made for, because you have a little bit of wiggle room as you're putting things down, and if you don't think you've placed it correctly, you can move it a little bit. If you take your template off and you still want to play around a little bit, you can. So because we didn't cut pieces, every single little piece, I am going to be sliding some of my pieces in. So I'm going to start with this corner, and I'm actually going to lift this clip up for right now, and I'm going to put the first photo down, and I'm going to sort of slide it behind that piece of plastic that I chose not to cut against. And you want to just center it as best as you can. And I'm going to keep doing that. And this is actually where, if I knew a little bit more about how to deal with videos, I'd probably be able to fast forward with this, but you're just going to have to bear with me. I'm sure you're probably tired, and this is kind of a nice, dreamy thing to do. Just watch me put in my little strips of paper. Now, if you cut small, you just cut all the little pieces individually, obviously you wouldn't have to do this. You could just lay them inside of the template. But because I chose to not do that, this is a little off still. I'm going to try to pull that. I may have to adjust it when we take everything apart. So I'm going to attach that clip, and I'm going to move on to my next corner. These pictures were all taken during our week's vacation down in Matunic, Rhode Island. We had what I'm calling an incredibly normal week where we just spent most of the time on the beach. We did do a couple of walks in a couple of nature preserves. People in Rhode Island seem to be good about wearing their masks, so we really didn't have that worry, at least in the nature preserves they did. Whoops. And one of the things that Kirk and Katie and Katie's friend Katie love to do is to go out and sort of look for stuff in the water, look for stuff on the beach. So these are pictures of the Katies, and then the Katies and Kirk having some fun trying to find treasures. Kirk actually found a hermit. He found more than one hermit crab. He found some crabs and some snails. And because he has a saltwater tank here at home, he brought a little container and brought a little sample of creatures home to try living in our saltwater tank. So other than initially one of the crabs attacking one of his tropical fish, everything I think has gone fairly smoothly since that happened. All right, and we're almost done. I can put this here. I don't know if I'm going to put that there. I'm going to see. I'm not sure. Take that away. I may have to reprint this photo. I don't know where that little dot of white came from because it wasn't on it when I took it out of the printer, but unfortunately it's there. So again, the good thing about repositional tape is you can pull something up and change your mind a little bit. All right, one more. At least I think there's one more. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take this off. You just take the clips off. You just have to go kind of carefully. I think we're not going to have a whole lot of trouble here because I did most of the work by sliding things under. But once we take this up, we can get a sense of what that's going to look like. And I can choose to, either I could use that, or I could go that way. So you can tell me what you like the best, that or this, and I probably will put some embellishments, sort of see what I have in terms of stickers, but this is the basic use of the templates, and I wanted to spend some time showing you some of the tips and give you an opportunity to ask questions. Now, I did remember we talked about how this is such a versatile template because you can see sort of the squares and triangles versus the circular motif. That's what I used here. But I wanted to show you that I actually did one using more of the square shapes. And this is what I came up with. These are more pictures from our trip down to Matunuck. And this I actually used, these are sheets from Vitamin C. This is our new or more current beach themed set. And by just following a different set of lines on the template, you can get a totally different look. I mean, this, except for the circle in the middle, versus that, two different, very different looks. Sometimes people, choose to actually put another square here or a title or whatever. So I really feel like this is a very, very versatile template. And it's not something, you would not do every single page of your scrapbook using templates. I think that, they are time-consuming, more time-consuming than maybe some of the easier layouts that you're used to making. But they're really pretty if you have special pictures or you want to take the time to do something different. It's sort of like a different skill set, thinking about shapes and their relationship to the colors and the papers that you use. So those are the helps and hints that I hopefully have shared with you and you find helpful, and you might get inspired to either try the template that you ordered, or maybe the next time you order you'll say, hey, maybe I should try one of those templates that Barbara showed us during summer camp. So thanks so much for your attention today. We have a little bit more time to work together, so enjoy the final hours of summer camp.